world of Oak Island has always been shrouded in mystery, but what happened in Season 12 shook the foundations of the entire team. A man like Marty Lagina, who had braved every danger for years to explore every inch of the island, suddenly emerged one day and declared, "I'm done." For fans, it was nothing short of an earthquake. Everyone wondered what had shaken Marty to this extent. The air inside told a different story, one involving fear, pressure, and a mystery the world might not be ready to see. During Season 12's excavation, there was a night when machines stopped on their own. Sensors picked up a strange low-frequency signal, and ground readings revealed an impossible-level anomaly, a density so high that experts exclaimed, "This can't be natural." That very night, Marty and the engineers held a closed-door meeting, witnessing something of which no official footage exists. The crew whispered, "We saw something that couldn't have been captured on camera." From then on, Marty's entire behavior began to change, speaking less, sitting alone late into the night, and distancing himself from the team. Fans were bound to be shocked by all this, but the real twist was yet to come. Before Marty resigned, he gave the team a sealed folder containing new data, readings that could surpass history. Honestly, if you haven't subscribed, you'll miss the biggest story on Oak Island. What Season 12 started isn't over yet. Just understand this. What Marty saw changed everything. Marty Lagina's journey to Oak Island isn't the story of an ordinary person. It's the story of a man who ventured into every unknown not just out of curiosity, but rather a blend of science, engineering, and logic. For the past 10 years, he didn't just treat the island as a digging site, but as a massive puzzle, trying to unravel each layer. Money, time, and energy. Marty invested everything, and at times, it felt like the island had become the biggest gamble of his life. Over these 10 years, Marty experienced dozens of failures, collapsed tunnels, inaccurate readings, million-dollar losses, and even nights when the entire crew was terrified, thinking the island was behaving as if it were alive beneath. But Marty's hallmark was that he never backed down. His engineering mind always said, "Every problem has a solution. You just need the right data." This is why his resignation came as a huge shock to viewers, as Marty is one of those people who fights to the last, never giving up. At the start of Season 12, the atmosphere seemed surprisingly normal. They had received significant funding from the History Channel, new advanced machinery had been brought in, and the team's mood was quite positive. Rick and Marty were both excited because their deeper drilling plan was about to reach the island's most untouched zone. At the beginning of each episode, they confidently declared, "This time, we're more prepared than before." Viewers also sensed that Season 12 was going to be the smoothest season yet. But real tension was slowly building in the background. After installing the new technology, some machines began to exhibit random glitches. Sensor logs began to show unexplained spikes, and some workers reported hearing strange hollow echoes from the ground. Initially, the team dismissed it as a normal technical error, but Marty began repeatedly rechecking the data, sitting alone. A slight worry appeared on his face, and he became uncharacteristically quiet, which even Rick found strange. These were the signals that Season 12 was not as normal as it seemed. Crew members also began noticing unusual magnetism readings at drilling sites, something never seen in previous seasons. Marty's engineering mind instantly became alert, and he began to think, "This isn't geology, it's something else." Nevertheless, he kept the show running at a normal pace to avoid panic. Viewers saw everything going smoothly, but inside, the team was feeling more pressure than ever. It seemed as if the island was issuing a final warning before a major reveal. Season 12 wasn't as calm as it seemed. Marty slowly began to understand that Oak Island had a different game this time. It was this build-up that laid the groundwork for Marty's most shocking decision: resignation. The strangest moment came just a few days after Season 12's excavation began, when the island's newly installed sensors suddenly picked up a very low-frequency signal of 18 to 20 Hz. At first glance, it appeared to be a technical glitch, but the reading repeated 3 times in a row. When the crew saw the graph on the monitor, their eyes widened, as such a pattern had never been recorded on Oak Island before. At the same time, nearby cameras suddenly began flickering, as if an invisible wave was disturbing their electronics. Checking the ground vibration logs revealed a steady pulsing effect coming from underground, which didn't resemble a natural tremor at all. Normally, vibrations are random when the Earth shifts, but here the pattern was very controlled, as if an object was slowly moving. Marty immediately called the engineers and said, "This is not normal ground noise. Check it again." For the first time, there was no fear in his tone, but deep confusion and alertness. When engineers arrived in the field and rescanned the ground with their advanced seismic tools, their readings were even more startling. The low-frequency intensity was increasing, and the depth readings clearly indicated that the signal wasn't coming from a natural pocket or gas bubble. A senior engineer simply said, "This isn't geology behavior. Something else is happening." A strange silence fell over the crew, as if the wind had stopped. The atmosphere suddenly became slightly eerie, as Oak Island typically receives high-frequency noise, but the 18 Hz signal didn't match natural tectonic patterns. Engineers explained that such a low frequency often occurs when an extremely heavy object is shifting deep underground. Some team members half-jokingly remarked, "Isn't this vault moving on its own?" But behind the jokes lay a genuine fear, because the readings didn't completely rule out that possibility. The camera's glitch was also a big clue. The footage was repeatedly distorted, as if there was electromagnetic interference nearby. Rick said, "Island doesn't behave like this unless something big is happening." The tension on Marty's face was evident, as someone with an engineering background doesn't take data lightly. He repeatedly zoomed in on monitors, cross-checked graphs, and carefully studied each spike. His body language suggested he was trying to piece something together, and he didn't like the answer he was coming up with. When the engineers delivered their final short report, it clearly stated, "This is an unnatural subsurface event. Cause unknown." This wasn't just a warning, it was a message from Oak Island. Something that had been silent below for decades was perhaps stirring for the first time. The team realized this wasn't just a technical reading, but the beginning of an unfolding mystery. And this is where the entire tone of Season 12 shifted. The scariest night of Season 12 came when the team was drilling a deep borehole. The weather was calm, the machines were running at perfect speed, and everything seemed routine. But suddenly, at exactly 2:17 a.m., the main drill rig jolted to a complete halt, as if it had hit an invisible wall. The entire site fell silent for a moment, leaving workers staring at each other. Then, in the next second, a loud metallic clang resounded from underground, so clear it stopped everyone's heartbeat. Drill operators ran around in panic. Warning lights blinked on monitors, and a sharp spike appeared on the log screen, shocking the engineers. Normally, a drill strikes rock with a dull sound, but this sound was like a hollow metal chamber, solid and unnatural. Marty, who always appeared calm in emergencies, showed clear fear on his face. He immediately exclaimed, "Shut it down! Everyone back!" The crew had never heard Marty speak in that tone before. Rick arrived at the site and noticed that the machine had frozen, as if something very heavy had grabbed it. Operators reported that the drill bit was beginning to pull downward, as if some unknown force was pulling it. Hearing this, Marty's eyes widened. His entire demeanor suddenly took on a sense of urgency. He ordered the site to be secured immediately, and the rest of the crew to be evacuated. Those standing nearby whispered that Marty felt visibly shaking. The ground vibrated slightly for several minutes, and then everything fell silent as suddenly as it had begun. Cameras were also glitching, as if an electromagnetic wave had disrupted the entire system. When the production team later viewed the footage, many areas were blacked out. Clearly, there was some interference. Everyone realized this wasn't a normal drilling accident. There was something moving underneath. Immediately after the incident, Marty ordered the cameras turned off and the crew sent back to the tent area. Only Rick, Marty, and 2 lead engineers remained near the borehole. After a moment, Marty said, "We need a closed-door meeting. Now." This was the moment when filming on Oak Island was deliberately halted for the first time. The History Channel team was also stunned, as this almost never happens on the show. Rick, Marty, and the engineers went into a temporary office trailer where their meeting lasted a total of 43 minutes, but the workers standing outside couldn't hear a single word. Some crew members reported that the voices were quiet throughout the meeting, but 3 times the tone suddenly became louder, as if someone in shock had said, "No way," or "This can't be real." When they emerged, Rick's face was extremely tense, and Marty looked almost pale. No one dared to ask what happened inside, but everyone sensed that something major had unfolded that night. So major that the cameras couldn't capture it. This was the moment that changed the entire direction of Season 12. The very next day, after the night of the deep borehole, strange whispers began to circulate in the Oak Island camp. Some crew members began saying that the moment the drilling stopped, something had shifted underground, as if a very heavy object was slowly shifting its position. One worker even said bluntly, "Brother, the vibration was just like footsteps, heavy footsteps." Hearing this, the others tried to laugh it off, but deep down, everyone was terrified. Footsteps underground in Oak Island? It sounded like something out of a horror movie. Tension increased further when 2 different workers showed their vibration logs. The readings matched, a steady movement pattern heading east. Engineers initially dismissed it as a misreading, but when the data began to repeat itself, no one took it lightly. The production team also noticed that the soil around the machines had appeared slightly disturbed overnight, as if someone had pushed it from below. Older crew members said they'd never seen such behavior in 10 to 12 years. Marty sat with the data for hours. His expression clearly indicated he was connecting something he probably didn't want to share with the world. Rick even asked him, "What do you think moved down there?" But Marty bowed his head and simply said, "I don't know. And that's what scares me the most." This was the first moment the entire team realized there wasn't just gold or an empty vault below. Perhaps something engineered, or a system within certain layers that couldn't be natural. Suspense reached sky high when the AI team released a new model of the deep scan. A massive cavity appeared beneath Oak Island's bedrock, and in the center of the cavity was an object with a density many times greater than normal metals. Reports stated that the object's density was 3 to 4 times higher than gold. The engineers were stunned, as such material doesn't naturally exist on Earth. The team's lead analyst stated clearly, "If this data is accurate, then this object doesn't appear to be man-made." In the AI 3D render, the object resembled a spherical mass, surrounded by a faint metallic reflection pattern. It measured approximately 9 to 12 feet across, and beneath it, another small cavity was detected, like a 2-level vault structure. When Rick saw this model on the screen, he simply uttered a single line, "This is impossible," while Marty quietly spoke from behind. Or maybe this is the real truth of this island. Confusion spread rapidly among the expert teams. Geological experts said, "This formation can't be natural." Metallurgy experts said, "The density doesn't match any known metal." AI analysts said, "The probability of data error is only 0.7%. This meant that whatever was beneath was really there. Fear slowly spread among the crew. If something so massive was moving underground, what was its size and purpose? This was the first time the mystery of Oak Island went beyond just a tale of gold or treasure, becoming a mystery that was nearly impossible to explain. And this is where the real horror of Season 12 begins. Just days after the shocking AI scan readings, a scene unfolded on Oak Island that sent chills down the entire crew's spine. Early in the morning, 2 black SUVs were seen approaching the island's main causeway at a very slow speed. The cars bore no logos, their license plates were half covered, and the occupants wore dark glasses, making it impossible to identify anyone. The production team suspected they might be government officials, but no one confirmed. These visitors wouldn't even speak to the crew, simply heading straight for the drilling site, as if they already knew which area to go to. Within minutes, they had temporarily sealed off 2 sections of the island. Yellow tape, metal barricades, and warning boards were installed. The official reason given was simply safety review. But the workers clearly sensed that safety was just an excuse. The real reason was something else. Rick wanted to go to the center and ask them questions, but was politely held back. Marty also tried to talk to them, but their responses were very short and vague, as if they were hiding something. Tension began to rise among the crew because government-level interference is rare on the show, and here, 2 full zones had been closed without notice. The vibe on the island felt as if a high-security operation had begun. Some workers whispered, "It seems whatever was found down there isn't just treasure. Maybe it's something bigger that the government was already tracking." This could have been a joke, but the presence of the SUVs made it feel completely real. Amidst all this, Marty's behavior completely changed. Previously, he would sit with the crew, discuss planning, and crack jokes. But after the SUVs left, he almost isolated himself. He would sit alone in the corner of the tent, repeatedly zooming in on the AI readings below. At times, he was seen so engrossed in files that people hesitated to approach him. That Marty, a man who has always been rational and confident, appeared so disturbed was a strong indication that the matter wasn't just a signal or a cavity. Team members say that Marty would wander the site alone even at night, checking the pressure with soil in his hand and repeatedly returning to the same spot to observe the ground. Rick once even told him, "You're scaring everyone, man." But Marty simply smiled slightly and replied, "Rick, we're dealing with something different this time." This line remains etched in the crew's memory to this day, as his speech was both fearful and confusing. Production staff say that Marty began speaking less during filming. He would lower his gaze whenever the camera panned towards him. Even in meetings, he would respond in half sentences, as if his mind was stuck somewhere else. Most shocking was that Marty repeatedly said, "We need to slow down," despite his always being a proponent of fast digging and deeper exploration. This sudden U-turn unsettled the team. The mysterious visit of SUVs to the island and Marty's behavioral change, both of these sent a clear message to the crew that Season 12 was no longer a normal treasure hunt. Something was being revealed that was probably never meant for the world to know. In Season 12, everyone thought the first strange incident was the biggest, but the real breaking point was yet to come. One night, around 3 a.m., while half the crew was resting in tents and the rest were checking equipment, a deep, hollow echo suddenly resonated in the ground. This sound was very different from the previous metallic clang. It was as if an empty chamber was breathing below. The echo was so deep that workers could clearly feel the vibrations in their feet. The moment was so intense that the air literally felt heavy for a second. Just 2 seconds after the echo, an icy cold air blast erupted from near the borehole. So cold that 2 crew members standing nearby immediately retreated and grabbed their jackets. A sudden blast of such cold air on Oak Island is almost impossible. Engineers were shocked because the temperature underground isn't so low that air can escape like fog. Seeing this, Marty's expression completely changed. He raised his hand and shouted, "Stop everything! Don't dig another inch!" There was fear in his voice, not command, and that shook everyone to their core. Rick tried to calm him down, but Marty wasn't in the mood to listen. He ordered the machines to be shut down, the crew to retreat, and the entire borehole to be covered immediately. It was as if Marty knew that if the digging went even an inch further, something irreversible would happen. Crew members whispered that perhaps the pressure chamber below had opened, perhaps an engineered trap had activated, or perhaps the unknown object had moved again. But only Marty knew what the truth was, and the fear on his face that night was something no one on Oak Island had ever seen before. The next morning, Marty didn't speak to anyone, didn't properly participate in any meetings, and simply rechecked the night's readings on his laptop. Rick explained, "We owe the fans an explanation," but Marty's eyes remained fixed on the data. After a while, he got up and walked toward base camp without a word. And that's where he did his most shocking act. Not a resignation letter. Something far more dangerous. Marty called the entire team into a small tent. The atmosphere was quiet, so quiet that everyone's heartbeat could be heard. He entered expressionlessly, holding a thick, sealed envelope in his hand. He looked at Rick, then at the rest of the crew, and said, "What I've seen, it's not ready for the rest of the world yet." The entire tent fell dead silent. Then he placed the envelope on the table and said, "This is new scan data, and a warning. Do not open it yet." The envelope was heavy, as if it contained not just papers, but some technical device or hard print. Marty specifically said that it should only be opened under specific conditions, but he did not say what those conditions were. There was a fear on his face that didn't come from a calculation or engineering error. It was the fear of a reveal that shakes a person to their core. He looked at the crew one last time and quietly said, "Be careful with what you're digging into," and then simply walked away. Without looking back, Marty's sealed folder on Oak Island remains the biggest mystery of Season 12, and perhaps the reason fans still ask, what did Marty see down there that night? The silence that descended on Oak Island after Marty's sudden departure was unseen before. A strange vacuum formed in the camp's tent area, as if someone had drained the energy from the place. Cameras were back on, but without Marty, the entire atmosphere seemed desolate. Crew members had only one question: what did he see? But no one had an answer. Rick Lagina, always strong, looked visibly shaken this time. When production asked Rick for an on-camera interview, he remained silent for a few seconds. He took a deep breath, and his eyes looked slightly red, clearly emotional. Then he said softly, "Marty saw something. Something he can't even describe." This one sentence shook the entire crew. Rick added that Marty always faced every risk, observing every anomaly with curiosity. But this time, there was a different fear within him. A fear that perhaps words don't exist to explain. Rick said with brotherly pain, "I know my brother. If he's backing out, It means something very big, very serious has happened. His hands rested on the envelope, the same sealed folder Marty had left behind. His fingers trembled slightly, as if he himself were afraid of what might be written inside. Rick said Marty had clearly told him, "Don't open it unless you absolutely need to." This line echoed throughout the camp, and everyone wondered when would be the moment when opening this envelope would be considered necessary. At night, Rick sat alone in the control tent. The wind was blowing outside, the machines were off, and the island wore a strangely dead calm. He stared at the envelope again and again, picking it up, then putting it back down. Finally, curiosity prevailed. He tried to peel back the seal, just to see what kind of document was inside. As he opened the flap slightly, a shiny metal-tagged sheet appeared inside, bearing the words, "Subsurface Report. Level 2 access required." Rick froze. The wording wasn't typical of a typical research paper. It sounded like a classified document. But the question was, Level 2? To which authority? To which organization? And who gave Marty this sheet? Rick didn't fully unfold the sheet. His face was filled with fear, fearing he might see something that would break him. He quickly closed the envelope and said, "Not yet. Not now." At that moment, production focused the camera on him, and Rick spoke to the audience in a straightforward, honest tone. "If you haven't subscribed, brother, do it now. If you miss the next part, someone else will know the biggest truth about Oak Island before you." His voice was steady, but there was a fear in his eyes that gave the entire episode a unique gravity. And this is where Season 12's most suspenseful ending came into being. A sealed folder, an unseen truth, and a mystery that might just become Oak Island's biggest story.